Good afternoon, and welcome to How to Stand Out on Paper, the Art of Interviewing, sponsored by Today's Girl, Tomorrow's Woman. It is my pleasure to bring to you today an amazing panel of amazing women who have supported Today's Girl, Tomorrow's Woman throughout the years. Today, our moderator will be Sonia Tennell, panelists Mrs. Wendy Williams, Mrs. Tiffany Barfield, and Mrs. Janelle Boyd. My name is Tara Bellevue. I'm the co-founder of Today's Girl, Tomorrow's Woman, and I will be the facilitator. Today's session will be recorded. Sonia, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Sonia Tennell, and I am so excited to moderate this panel today. I am a big fan of the organization and try to participate whenever I can. So I am really excited today, and I am looking forward to learning as well as the young ladies who participate with us during this time period. At this point, I am going to ask each one of the panelists to introduce themselves. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. And we're going to start with Mrs. Wendy Williams, and then we will have Tiffany Barfield, and then we will have Janelle Boyd. So why don't we go in that order to get us started?
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wendy Williams. I am a manager of recruitment, training, and diversity with the MTA, New York City Transit. I've been there a little over 4 years. Prior to that, I worked in banking for approximately 25 years. I love this organization. I'm so thrilled to be here to share my knowledge with you. I think that this topic for the young ladies would be phenomenal as far as helping them to prepare for jobs, as well as when they apply for scholarships, etc. So I took some notes. I'm excited. Hopefully they take some notes as well, and they have some great questions if we have the opportunity to answer some of their questions. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to Ms. Barfield.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Tiffany Barfield. I'm Senior Director of Policy and Advocacy at NAF. I want to thank Tara and her amazing team for inviting me back to speak to these wonderful young women about how to stand out on paper in the art of interviewing. Looking forward to that. I've been with NAF for almost 5 years. I manage all of the policy and advocacy. So what does that entail? That entails a lot of travel, and well, when we could travel, meeting with local and state policy leaders and elected officials, both at the state and local level and also federally. So excited to be here today. Thanks, Sonia.
Thank you. And now we'll go on to Ms. Boyd, Ms. Janelle Boyd.
Yes, hello. I'm so pleased to be here. So as of right now, as you see, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a public speaker. I focus on young women. But beforehand, I spent 6.5 years in the staffing industry working for Robert Half. So I have reviewed thousands of resumes and interviewed thousands of candidates, as well as talking with those decision makers, the hiring managers. So I'm so excited to share my experience with these young ladies, and I'm so excited to be a part of this panelists. I love Today's Girl, Tomorrow's Women, so it's such an honor every time I get a chance to give back in this way.
Wonderful. We have a great panel here, so why don't we, one question for Tara. For questions, do you want them placed, how would you like to take questions so the participants know?
Great question, Sonia. I will, as the moderator, I will be monitoring the chat box and facilitating questions that are coming back. We all have the visibility to be able to see it. If you, when you send a message in the chat box, if you leave it open to everyone, everyone will get to see it. But I'll see all messages that flow during this time. So questions can be placed in the chat box.
Okay, wonderful. So let's jump right into it. Why don't we start out asking a question for people who have never had an opportunity to submit a resume or prepare a resume or anything like that. What are some of the things that they should take into consideration when they are building their resume, especially if they've never had a job? We have a lot of students who've never been in the workplace. And I think we can keep this kind of casual. So anyone who would like to respond, please jump right in.
Okay, I'll start. One thing when I was in staffing, which was just in March, um, we've had high school students come in, and what we look for is what are transferable skills? Maybe some volunteer work you've done, maybe you're part of a club in school. The positions that I focus on most often were the administrative positions. So anything from a chief administrative officer to a receptionist. And if you're able to articulate some of those skills, whether you're great in Excel or Word, or you answered phones, or you led a club, you know, those things can be transferable into an entry-level position. So we always instructed them to articulate that on paper.
Okay. So, no, please go ahead.
Thanks. I would completely agree with Janelle about highlighting your volunteer experiences and your clubs and any leadership roles that you may have had. For the women who have been in retail or the service industry, our hospitality industry, I would focus on your customer service. We need customer service in every industry that's out there. So focusing on how you helped customers, what you did, really bring that through line to support your application for a first job.
And if I can add on briefly, I think a starting point for these young ladies would be to conduct a self-assessment, meaning think about their skills, type up their skills. I would create a document where I outline my soft skills as well as my hard skills, and I would refer back to that as I apply to positions, because your skills, to Janelle's point, are transferable. So for example, if I had a document and I thought about my skills, I have great communication skills, I enjoy writing, customer service, dealing with the public. As far as my hard skills, just as Janelle mentioned, Excel, Microsoft Office, PowerPoint, and Word, etc. So having a document that they can utilize over and over again as a starting point, because in most case scenarios, your skills are transferable. So I think that's a great idea, just to have a document that they can refer back to start.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sonia, one more point. I just wanted to make sure that
sure.
whenever they have their resume, have it in Word or a Google Doc, because whenever you're applying to a Trello or you're applying to something online, make it easy on yourself so you can copy and paste that and put that into the application, because we all know everything is virtual these days, so you're going to need to upload it in some format. And I would most certainly make sure that there's consistency within your resume and that that same thing is reflected on your LinkedIn profile.
Agreed. And one last thing.
No, please go ahead.
I played sports in college, and I was like a captain of the team, and I realized that a lot of clients like athletes. I guess it's because they're team players, they're driven, they're self-motivated. So even little things like that, if you play sports in school and you were captain of the team, put that on there because they see it and they like it too.
Absolutely.
That is great information, and that really takes me into our next question, but I'm going to combine that with something else. We talked about hard skills and soft skills. Right. So how do you know exactly what to put in? Everything shouldn't go in. So how do you know what to actually leave out? It reminds me of how they say when you get dressed, always take off one thing before you walk out the door so you're not overly done. So how do you know how to do that? Take off that one thing with your resume. And also, could the panelists touch on whether, I didn't realize high school students perhaps were on LinkedIn. So if you could address that as well.
So if I could start, as far as what you leave off, a big part of creating a resume is a working document, meaning they should not utilize the same resume for each job that they apply for. So when you ask what should they remove, a big part of creating the resume has to do with customizing your resume for the job itself, looking at the job description, looking at the qualifications, because if you look at the job description, perhaps your hard skills, one of your hard skills is not applicable to that job, or one of your soft skills, maybe it's not applicable to the job. So key is really knowing the organization, knowing what they're looking for, looking at the job description, looking at your skills and how they are transferable into the job itself. So customizing the resume, I go out to a lot of schools and I speak to the high school students, and I normally suggest that they have a template of a resume that they massage and they utilize over and over again, and they make the adjustments based upon the job that they're applying for. So looking at the job description, customizing it and tailoring it to the job instead of using the same resume over and over again, because most companies use a software program, a tracking system basically. And that system is going to look for keywords. And so your resume could be stellar in your eyes, but if those words that they have in the job description does not match, then the software is not going to pull up the resume.
Agreed.
LinkedIn, I'm sorry, I just want to touch on LinkedIn. I absolutely love LinkedIn. Janelle and I are connected in LinkedIn, actually. I suggest that to the high school students when I go out to look me up on LinkedIn and to go in there and create a profile, and I give them a little snippet of it. And I ask them, go and check my profile, look at the profile, look at the tutorials that are available. And quite a few of the high school students actually sent me invites. So they have profiles, they're very professional, even their image, so I'm impressed. So I think it's a great idea. I'm not sure, I think Janelle mentioned LinkedIn. I'm a huge fan of it. And for the young people, it's a great way to begin to network with employers.
Agreed. Yes, I completely agree. Keyword search is very is how recruiters recruit. I mean, if you are sitting there and you have 1,000 people coming in, we're not going to look at every resume. We're putting in and getting the hot ones that come up, and we're looking at those. So I think a big thing is to only put what's necessary, and to your resume should speak to the job that you want. You know, anybody should look at the job description, look at your resume and say, oh man, this person can do that. If it looks like it doesn't match, then you need to do some work on your resume. And it should, like when Wendy said, it should read really easy. So when the recruiter's eyes touch the page, who you are should jump off. If it's too busy and I'm digging through it, I'm just gonna go to the next one. So you really just want to kind of cut off the fat, leave the meat, let it be clean and clear.
This
And
is
I would
Kara.
agree.
Can I offer one question? And Tiffany, maybe you can start on this. Can you give some examples of buzzwords that should be included in their resume?
Good question.
Yeah.
Great question. I would say what we're hearing, and I'm sure Janelle from her time staffing and what we're hearing at NAF from corporations is certainly all those 21st century power skills. And you're reading that if you're looking at job specs. You know, do they know how to work in a team? So can you collaborate? How do you communicate? What are you creative? Have you managed? And back to Janelle's point, if you're a leadership, if you've managed a group, if you've managed a team. So really and truly kind of harnessing the words that you've been hearing on working in teams, collaborating, lead, motivating. I would say those words that are authentic yet positive.
Action.
Action,
Yeah.
absolutely. That you act, not just create. There's a movement forward with what you're doing. Couple quick things on the resume. As Janelle said, keep it tight. Don't let it be more than one page, and certainly don't have it in a micro font that's not readable to people that are in high school. So make sure that you're at least following I would say anywhere between a 10 and 12 point font. As well as for your LinkedIn profile, Wendy said it's so important to start your connecting now. This is really and truly building your social network. Hopefully you've had an internship experience and mentors throughout your time in high school, and certainly all the women that you've encountered with today's girls, tomorrow's woman. Make sure that you reach out and you are connected with them. I was just chatting with a college graduate, and she said, well, I've reached out to some people on LinkedIn and they haven't responded, and she reached out to people for a corporation she was looking for. And I said, well, what was your initial email? And she said, well, I just wanted to connect with them. And I said, what you need to do is you need to personalize it. Look at their LinkedIn profile and see, oh, I noticed that Tiffany worked in Washington, D.C. Come up with something that you're interested in, making it authentic. I was thinking about doing an internship on Capitol Hill. Do you have any guidance? So bringing it back to personalizing for someone that you reach out to, I promise you 99% of the time, people love to talk about themselves. So they would be happy to connect right back with you. So don't be afraid of no. If at first they don't respond, try again.
Great point. And if I may add to Tiffany's point regarding LinkedIn, now is the time for the students to actually reach out to folks on LinkedIn, because a lot of people are working from home. I've been working from home for 3 months, so I'm going back to the office in July. But I think that now is the ideal time. So if they set up their LinkedIn profile, to your point, they conduct a little research, someone that they want to connect with, send them a note and asking them, do they have a little free time to connect for a brief discussion, learn about what they do. So I think that's important. People are afraid to reach out, but I think it's really important just to take the initiative. They can either say yes or no.
Okay, that is great information. And just to follow up on LinkedIn, it sounds like maybe that itself could be a separate workshop on how to prepare your LinkedIn profile.
Definitely. It's a great idea.
I don't do that, but maybe that's something we could think about.
Yeah.
So now I've done everything that you suggested. I have my resume together. I have sent it out, and someone actually wants to interview me. How do I prepare for the interview? What should I do?
I'll start this one. Well, one thing is you need to know the job that you interview for, because I know that a lot of times you go, there's features where you can, apply all. And so your resume just shoots out to a bunch of jobs, and then you get back until you walk in because you've been going to interviews and you don't really remember what the job was. I mean, you know it's customer service, but you don't know what type of people you're talking to. That's not good. So you want to make sure that you go back over the job description so you know exactly what you're applying for, know the name of the company. I've definitely had candidates go in and just botch the name, and then the content done at that point. So you want to make sure you know the name of the company, the mission of the company,
Yes.
really have a personal touch with why you want to work there. And yes, it might sound a little crunchy, a little corny, but this is what I do every day, right? And so you're going to interview to work with me, and I want you to be as invested in it as I am. So it's important that you look it up and you really take your time to go through their website and understand what they do and who they service.
Right.
And then go through your own resume, get re-familiar with it. It is your history, your work history. I think sometimes you know what you did, but it's not fresh in your mind. And so as a client is going over it and interviewing you, and they're asking you about it, and you have to go back to your resume and like look back at the bullet points, that's not the look you want. It needs to be you. You need to just like feel it and own it and be able to talk. Right when they say in the third line, you said you blah, blah, blah. Yes, I did. So it's important that you just prepare yourself for all the information so you're most comfortable when you're in an interview room and you feel confident.
And I would add, as Janelle said, not only know the company, but know the person that you're interviewing with. Yeah. Google is a great resource, but also the LinkedIn profile. So check out who you're interviewing with, and you can walk in with tell me more about this whenever it gets to the question answer period during your interview, and you can make a real connection with the person that is interviewing you. And Wendy had mentioned earlier about keeping a running document of your skill sets, which is so important. And I would thread in, know your stories. So if you have a bullet point around leading a club, have a story that from the club, you raised X amount of money. But even though you, as Janelle said, even though you know your stories, yes, I did that, refreshing yourself each time before you go into an interview, I would say is key to knocking it out of the ballpark.
Agreed on that. I agree. That's something. I'm sorry. I'm just going to make a quick moment what Tiffany said, because I always tell when I used to prep candidates, they say, so like customer service is really big before I left. So it's that idea of, so, why do you feel like you'll be good for this? Oh, I'm good with people. I listen to people. Like, that's great. But if I say there was a time that Sally was upset about something, this is how I handled it, and then she left happy, it makes me believe you more because it's a story than you just saying I'm great, So yeah, stories are big.
Right. And that's exactly what I was going to say. So I think we're all on the same page, the importance of having a story. Looking at the job description itself, this is for myself, what I did prior to coming to the MTA. I had my resume on one page, and I also had side by side the job description. And I actually created stories based upon the job description. And I memorized them. So most interviews are behavioral, situation, behavior, outcome. Here's the situation. Could you give me an example of this and what was the outcome? So I think it's so important to have your stories ready. Someone just popped up a question regarding virtual interviews and how do we handle them. I just saw the question pop up. That's a great question, especially nowadays. I was in a meeting regarding virtual interviews yesterday, as a matter of fact. For candidates to apply for a job, whether it be on the phone or virtually, pretend that you're in person. That's how I position it, meaning the same thing as far as your dress attire, smiling, being prepared, having your resume, knowing the organization, having your questions. And something else that I wanted to mention regarding questions, by the way, for the young people, when you interview for a position, you can interview as well, meaning you can interview the interviewer. At the conclusion of the interview, when they ask, do you have any questions, please don't say, no, thank you, it's been wonderful. Make sure that you prepare at least 2 questions. Ask them, what keeps you up at night? So that they love that, meaning, what's your pain point? What are the challenges of the organization? Ask them something about the company. Ask them, what's the best part of your job? Or what are your expectations of me the first 30, 60, 90 days? So it's important for young people to also not to be afraid. I want you to think about this. Ask questions at the end of the interview and know your story.
Yeah, I have to say, Miss Wendy, that resume and job description and the stories wrapped around the job description, write that down. Put a star next to that. That was really good.
It worked. I actually did it. When you're looking for a job, you kind of become a master at looking for a job. I worked for a company, like I said, for 25 years. So lo and behold, you find yourself looking for employment. You master the art of interviewing and looking for a job. And it actually does work. Join the company.
Absolutely. And I would say when I made a transition from working in Washington, D.C. to New York, I pushed myself to do at least 5 things every day. Well, what did that mean? Applying for a job, so networking with someone. And another piece that I would say is the thank you note.
Right.
Yes.
Look, we know that we can send them quickly with text, with email. But the art of putting something in the mail, I can tell you what, when I've received some of those from students or people that I've interviewed or thank you, that is impactful the long way. I can say some of the best advice I'll never forget. At my first job, a mentor told me, Tiffany, get yourself some stationery that says Tiffany Barfield and keep that with you and drop thank you notes. When I was making the transition, I had interviewed with someone at the Verizon Foundation, and I dropped a note in the mail. He was just passing my name along to help me in New York. And the first thing he wrote me, he was like, Tiffany, it was so thoughtful of you to actually put something in the mail. Please let me know anytime if I can help you. So the art of thank you, it's a must. And I know, Sonia, we're kind of weaving around, but speaking of the virtual interviews, but thank your interviewer within 24 hours. And even if you want to, send them something on email, but certainly feel free to drop them a handwritten card. Yes, we're in different times, but they'll get it eventually, and it means a lot.
Yes, I agree. Written note is a very, very big deal, and I agree. And I don't mind the jumping around. There's so much information, and we have a very limited amount of time today, but as much as we can get out, the better, I think. So I think that's a great idea. And while we're on this subject, if you could address the dreaded, what are your weaknesses? Because you want to get an authentic sounding answer, and you want to be honest, but you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot either. So how should you go about answering that question?
It's a great
I'm happy to
question.
start with this one.
All right.
I love this question because, again, back to having great mentors that I've supported. So while I'm here today, I believe in paying it forward, but turn it into a positive, right?
Yes.
So your weakness, no, don't look at it as a weakness. Look as my opportunity for
Right.
improvement. This is
Yeah.
an area of where I need to grow, which
Yes.
sounds growth and opportunity, improvement. Sounds so much better than a weakness or something
Yes.
negative.
Yes.
So, for instance, I always start with mine as, well, I have high expectation of myself, but I also expect my coworkers to perform at 110%. And that's not always going to happen. So I've been able to adjust my expectations, not to lower them, but where can I meet my coworkers at the best place? So see, high expectations for some is a negative, but making it into, instead of people that don't finish their work on time really annoy me, I'm not going to lead with that. I'm going to say high expectations matter to me, and I know they matter to you and to this corporation. So really turn it into a positive of where you can grow. And that's also why you're applying for this job. You know, having every match skill set in the spec is probably not going to happen, but you want to be able to grow in a job just as you want to make this negative, turn it into a positive, so you can also grow through your needs where you need to improve, if you will.
Right. And if I may add, as far as it's not really a trick question, but I want to position it this way, in that look at the job itself, look at the skills that are required. Let's say, for example, they require someone who has great analytical skills, someone who is a master at Excel. When you're interviewing for a position and they ask you, well, what are your weaknesses? I really don't like Excel. I'm not that good at it. That's the wrong answer. So, or as your weakness, think about the job description. If there's something that's in the job description that you're not an expert on, don't share that. I don't want you to be dishonest, but you don't want to share that with the interviewer, because it's not going to rank you top as far as being hired. So you want to think about something that you can position in the positive, or something that perhaps you weren't strong at this, but you worked on it. You took a course. You came up to speed. But you want to look at that job description, and you don't want to share what you really don't like. Here's a trick question. It's not really a trick question, but in a way it is, where an employer may ask someone, what do you prefer, to work individually or with teams? So it is a trick question. So the answer is both. I'm just telling you the answer. It's both. It depends on the situation and the scenario, but I enjoy working independently, depending on the project that I'm working on, and I love working with teams as well. So it's a trick question, everyone, just sharing. So just say both and tell them why.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's truthful.
Absolutely. I would think now you would have to also be able to say how you work virtually in a team.
Right.
So many of our students who had to finish school virtually, how did they work together? Did they have to collaborate on a project? So I would say, and Wendy, Janelle, I would defer to your expertise if you agree, that be able to have your in-person when we can actually be in person, but also how you've done it virtually.
How do you answer that question? Because for some of us, the virtual, especially if you're in a seat, or if you've had an experience where you're very much a touchy-feely, person-to-person kind of person, and you have not enjoyed the virtual experience that much, how do you turn that into a positive?
Being flexible and learning how to adapt. I think that's important. And that's for everyone. Like, I enjoy going out. I'm a recruiter, so I go out to career fairs, I go out to high schools. Most of my time is spent in the field, which I absolutely love and I enjoy. So I've been at home for 3 months. I have the opportunity now to help my colleagues via phone. So it's being flexible, adapting to change. But yet I want them to be really honest as far as when they're articulating their answer, meaning don't just say it if you don't mean it, but looking at it from a different lens, if you will, because who would have thought, right? So we're home for months. Things happen. So how do you adjust and how do you adapt? I think that's important in any job as far as being flexible.
Right. I agree. I think
not easy.
Right. You guys have nailed it. I think you have to turn your weakness into a positive. One of the ones that whenever I'm prepping someone, I would share is like, one for me that I've done is I am an overachiever. I am a perfectionist. I will, if you tell me to do something, the lights could go off and I'll say, I need one more hour. That may not always be good because my manager will feel, you know, you're going to burn yourself out. But even though that I feel that is a weakness of mine because I need to learn a little bit of balance, a manager says, wow, that's going to be a hard worker. I can depend on her. She's going to come through. And so stuff like that where my weakness could benefit the team, although you might have to keep an eye on it so I don't burn myself out, things like that. And technology, this is something that as young people come out of high school, you can capitalize on. You are very comfortable with technology. And so when it's something that you can talk about, this is a great time to talk about your social media, or you know what, I'm very comfortable. I know how to go live. I know how to engage. I've gone live before. I video chat all the time. I understand the lighting, the audio, the sound. Those things let them know that virtually you will be comfortable. They don't have to teach it to you. You say, you know what? And then it's important that when you're on, you have your lights. I have a whole ring light here. I check my audio before it happens. Like my background, you know, like, so you keep your video on, you're engaging, you're looking in the camera, you're not on your phone, like, you know, those things come across in virtue. So that's something like if you're interviewing, you want to keep in mind is that listening to the camera, engaging, laughing, being very present. And if you have any experience outside of any experience in technology at all, whether maybe school you had to use technology, you had to create a video, that is value that you bring to the table, especially because the world is going virtual.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
So those are really great points for all of us, actually, because this is, for some of us, this is new, but I think your point for a lot of our students, this definitely is not new to them and really can work to their advantage. And along those same points, how do I bring in my real life experience, so to speak? Now, for some of us as high school students, some of us really do have real life experience, some of us don't. But for those of us who do, how do we incorporate that into our resume or into our interview in order to secure an opportunity?
I can start with this one. All right. So I'd say only give what would be likable in the moment, if that makes sense. Because some people say, I like to walk my dog. I like long walks on the beach. I don't need to know that. I really don't care. So I think that let out the parts that complement the position. And that's, I guess, kind of like what we went into before. If you're in some other club or there's another part that you feel like, man, this have transferable skills in it, or maybe the company's into this. Maybe the company, you know, if you go through LinkedIn and you looked at the things that they post, they support a particular cause, and your school, you did something that supported that cause. You can talk about that. If you go into their office, well, no one's going to anyone's office right now, but if you come to the office and you see something posted on the wall and you connect with that, I don't know, they have elephants everywhere and you like elephants, you can slightly just bring that up, or, you know, that to connect with them. So I think it's like, you just have to be savvy with it. You don't want to overshare. A manager doesn't need to know all of you. They just need to know the parts of you that apply to the position. And so you have to be very careful about don't overshare. But it's okay to bring you to a personal touch to the interview.
Right. Like share your hobbies, but don't share hobbies that are irrelevant. So exactly. You want to be a receptionist, don't share that, oh, I love to dance and sing. It's not that relevant, maybe not, but it depends on the company. I wanted to share something. Sometimes young people actually go to nursing homes. I've heard stories like this, and they read to the seniors, which I think is amazing, but they see it as not being a big deal. They don't realize that's huge as far as having patience, communication skills, caring, giving. So these are great qualities that are transferable in any job. So when I hear that, I'm like, really? Is it on? Let me look at your resume. Is it on there? It's not on there. So they think of it as just something that they should be doing. So I know that a lot of young people are now volunteering. Well, not right now, but they volunteer. I think it's important to have them look at their resume and make sure that it's on there as far as the volunteering piece.
I agree 100% with Wendy. The volunteer, the civic engagement, the community engagement is key. Those are skill sets that you're continuing to build, but also ones that you have to share with the company. Right now, we're hearing so much from corporations, and you're just seeing the stories on the news. The most important asset to a company is their human capital, and that's what you are. We are human capital. So those authentic stories, who you are, being kind, being caring, being compassionate, we know we need a lot more of that in the world. So bringing that and your authentic self to the person that you're interviewing with, that speaks volumes. And you know, it's, people want good people. We can train someone to be Microsoft Excel super duper power ranger, you know, but you can't train someone if they don't have a good EQ and connect with someone where they're going through a hard time. You have a coworker going through a hard time and you're like, what? I'm a robot. No, you need to be able to say, coworker, how can I help you out? That's the human and human capital. And that's the most important piece.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very good advice about just being human, and we need so much of that right now. I'd like to ask each of the panelists to give us one major point on how we can become a master of the resume building or the interview process. And then after that, we're going to take questions. What would you like to leave our students with today, or our participants, I should say?
I would say, I wrote down a couple things, is remember, it is a people business, right? You're not interviewing with a software system, you're interviewing with a person. So it's important to connect, look them in the eye. You know, I know sometimes it's nerve-wracking, your heart is pounding, you don't want to be jittery around, you just want to connect with them, smile, be kind, have manners, you know their name, thank them for the interview. We always say mirror and match. So if the person looks super giddy, you know, it's okay to smile a little bit, but if they're really calm, don't be super giddy. You know, find that balance between the two of you. And being polite goes a long way. Like, thank them for their time, but let them know you're really interested in it. I have had candidates in the past that really wanted the job but never said that, and the client said, I like them, but I didn't feel they wanted to be here. So you want to be clear and say, I'm really interested, these are the reasons why I'm interested in it. After what you shared with me, I feel like I'd be a great fit here, looking forward to growing with you and your organization. And so I think the biggest thing is to just be kind and remember it's a person, and remember to connect with them. And then lastly, your professional career is a journey. So you don't need to find the most perfect job in the entire universe. You just, you know, it's okay that maybe in 3 or 5 years you might end up doing something completely different. Allow yourself to grow and to blossom. I'm on this journey right now. And I think, quick tip, if you say, you know, I want to be a manager, like, I know I want an entry-level position, but I see myself like running things, right? Try to find, if you want to go into the administrative or customer service portion, find a position where you're supporting those in charge. Try not, you know, because there are certain positions where you'll be in the administrative team where those who make decisions can see your work. And then once you get the position, you work your behind off. Just go above and beyond, always professional, always together, where you become like a shining star in the midst of everyone else. And when it's time to promote somebody, guess who they're going to pick?
Thank you. That was wonderful. Who would like to go next? Wendy?
Sure, absolutely. I agree with everything Janelle shared. Just wanted to add on regarding the resume itself. It's a living document. I think it's important that although you create your resume and you have your template, to remember to go back and update your resume. So that means that as you acquire new skills, perhaps some of these young people are going to college, going to a trade school, etc. Make sure that you update your resume. I like to say that suggest that you update your resume at least once every 6 months. There should be a new skill set perhaps that you've learned. To update your resume, it's a living document, and always customize the resume to the job that you're applying for. I actually had a website that I wanted to share with them because I think it's important. I came across this website. It's collegerecruiter.com. So collegerecruiter.com, the name implies that it's just for college students. They have wonderful resources on this website. There are different articles as far as interviewing skills, building your resume out, looking for jobs, what should you look for, etc. So I think that it's a great resource for the young people to look at. Yes, that's it, Tara. Thank you. It's an excellent resource. And one more that I've actually shared when I go out to the schools is My Next Move. So My Next Move is a nice tool where if I'm a young person and I have no idea what I want to do, they can type in the job that they're looking for, and it pulls up the educational requirement and the experience itself. So I know that I don't have X, then maybe I should take these classes or go to school for this. So I just wanted to share that as well. A couple of resources that they can actually utilize going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds great. Those resources, I'm actually going to check those out myself. So if someone asks, I'll be able to refer them to your resources. They sound great. And certainly last but not least, Tiffany.
So agree completely wholeheartedly with my awesome panelists, Janelle and Wendy, about what they said for resume and interviewing. Couple quick things to add. Wendy mentioned the new skill sets that you add. I would also keep track of your accomplishments. That will also help you whenever you get a review, if you make it to a year-end review. So having the accomplishments that you had while you were working for that year, keep a list of that. I would also, run your resume and all your skill sets, have those mentors, because they can also point to you where you can, cut something down or add something. As Wendy said, so many of our young people don't want to, oh, I'm just going to read at a nursing home. No, that shows compassion. That shows empathy. So that needs to be seen. One thing, I had a mentor tell me once, you should always have a job, have an idea of your next job, but know your dream job. And as Janelle pointed out, this is a journey, and there's several different routes that we can go. Believe me, I changed my major several times in college, went, had different career opportunities, but it's all been a journey, and I've learned from everything. But someone said the reason why you need to know your dream job, if someone picks up the phone and calls you and says this can be yours, you need to be able to take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That is great. Well, I think the information shared here today was wonderful, just so very important. And right now, Tara, are there any questions from any of our participants?
So looking in the chat, there was only one question that wasn't answered. You've done an amazing job of answering all those great questions and lots of nuggets of wisdom. So this was an amazing experience. The one question that I'd like for us to take a moment to answer is, today's Girl, Tomorrow's Woman is really about bringing together amazing women like yourselves in front of young ladies, for them to be able to see themselves in you and for you to be able to see yourself in them. And I would love for each of you just to share a little bit about the twists and turns that you've taken to be at this point of success in your life.
I'll start. Well, so I graduated from Cornell in 2013 with the idea to be an entrepreneur, to be a public speaker. That's what I wanted to do. I was already doing it. I was speaking at the United Nations. I was like doing it, but it wasn't a career. I didn't have like a full salary on it. I was trying to figure it out. I didn't have a mentor in it, but I was very determined that when I left college, that's what I was going to do. I came to Robert Half to get a temp job to pay like my phone bill, just so I can go after my dream. But what happened was I was working so hard because I said I'm a perfectionist that they tapped me on the shoulder like, Janelle, you should stay here. And I was like, that's not a part of my plan.
Right.
But they convinced me, and 6.5 years later, I looked up and I realized that as time went on, and Tara has been a mentor to me, and trying to talk about my career, where I was doing, because I was successful, I was great at it, but something was missing. And I decided at that point, I started to work on the side to really build the speaking business more. And once I got to a point where I saved what I need to save, the business was moving, I said, it's time for me to go. It just happened that the whole world shut down through the coronavirus. So timing. But you know, I just want to share that because sometimes you want to do something else comes. I don't regret it. I learned so much being in corporate America, so much in recruiting and staffing, that I feel that my journey needed that break in corporate America to make me who I am today. So just be easy with yourself, be open to new opportunities, and know that who you are now is just a glimpse of who you're about to become. And so just allow yourself to blossom in that.
Great advice. Great advice.
Congratulations. Good for you.
Thank you.
Yes, I like how you said be easy with yourself. That's so important. Sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. So I think that's some great advice.
Yeah, thank you.
So right after I graduated from college, Texas A&M University, I had was going to be a teacher. I completed my student teaching, but then in August, I went to go visit my cousin who worked for a senator on Capitol Hill, and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love. I was like, wait a minute, this is run by young people. You certainly have a totally different image. And I was like, well, I like to run things, so why don't I give this a whirl? So January 14th, 2001, I moved up to Washington, D.C. I had my resume ready, probably not to the best expectations after this panel, but I was pounding the pavement, getting it out to everyone, used my network, and someone from Texas A&M University connected me to someone, and he said the White House called and they need someone in the Office of Domestic Policy. I was like, Office of Domestic Policy. I did do my research. You know, we weren't as big with Google in 2001. So I went in and volunteered for 2 days, and they offered me a job in February. So my very first job after leaving college was at the White House. I spent 6 incredible years with the President George W. Bush administration, traveling the world, and really instilling in me, which is the way I grew up, is having a purpose-driven job. And it was a purpose-driven job, you know, to support you know, the president and the people, and it was incredible. I had experiences to travel the world. And then I wanted to move to New York, and moved to New York, worked at a global bank doing events, and then the boom busted the first time and I was laid off. And it's one of those moments where, okay, pick up my bootstraps and get my resume out to everyone I know. Not that being laid off, it's certainly something to learn, but at this point, I realized I was grateful. I got laid off in June when the real collapse happened in August, when Lehman and Bear Stearns collapsed. I had by that time started working for a private family and stayed on to work at the private equity firm that he was CEO with. And then I wanted to get back to purpose-driven work, and that drew me to NAF, because I know that that's my mission, and what makes me happy is doing something for someone else. So I started out in corporate engagement, and I've been able to kind of bring it what I call 360. I'm back more in the political arena, telling legislators about the mission and what we do, and getting our students jobs, getting them employer ready, and I absolutely love it.
That's awesome. Okay, that's awesome. So just to mirror both Tiffany and Janelle, I like to say life is a journey. I immediately after high school, I attended Baruch College. Unfortunately, I had a parent who was really sick. So what I share to young people is that things are going to happen, and that's okay, right? That's a part of the journey. Key is that you learn and you push forward. So I was in college for 2 years, and I had a parent who became very ill. So I needed to work to help support the family. So I found a job in banking. I said, I'll be here for a minute because I was young. I'm going to just capture the entire world. I loved it. I was a part-time teller. I found out that I was really good. Back to Janelle's comment, work really hard. And I'm not saying that if you take the initiative, I stayed late, I came in early, learned the business, I continued to get promoted year after year after year, and I had management positions within the bank. I became a trainer for about 10 years at the bank. It's one of the largest banks in the country, actually. What happened to me, to Tiffany's point, things happen. So you find yourself without a job after 25 years. All of a sudden, there's an organizational restructure. So what do? You don't panic. Key is not to panic. Take it, look at, initially you're saying to yourself, well, what do I do from here? But you take a minute, you calm down, you look at your resume, you look at your skills, and you push forward. So I really believe that, you know, with life's journeys, there are twists and there are turns, but key is to remain positive, know yourself and your skills, know your experience and what you have to offer, the value that you have, and always be true to yourself and know that you're unique as far as your gifts. I think that's important. Sometimes we compare ourselves to others, but you're unique and you have your unique skills. So after 25 years with one organization, I found myself looking for a job, and I remained positive. Lo and behold, I was offered 2 positions at the same time during the same week, and I had to actually make a selection. So I think that when you have a positive mindset and you push forward, you can persevere. So I just wanted to share that. Life is a great journey.
Thank you
Well,
so
I think that's
much.
a great.
Yeah, so Sonia, I just want to make sure that you answer that question. I know you've been playing the moderator, but I want to make sure that you answer as well.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can answer that. Gee, I don't even know where to begin. I've been so busy listening, writing down little points here, but I do think remaining positive is key. Uh, Definitely, I think maybe it was Wendy who said, be true to yourself. I started out as an assistant district attorney, and then I went on and ultimately was involved in healthcare. And now I'm back doing that kind of work again. And I think what I did learn from all of my experiences is that the being true to yourself is just so important. The different experiences I had when I was in healthcare, the one I enjoyed the most was the one where I dealt with people, and we had really a team effort as far as the staff was concerned. The one that I enjoyed the least was where you really didn't get to engage with the public that much, and you were really making decisions based on various laws and different things, but you didn't have a lot of interaction with people. So I try to use my experiences to learn things about myself. And for me, I think it was Tiffany who said, I know my mission, and I've been thinking a lot about that lately. And I know for myself that everything that I do has to have some kind of community impact or giving back component. So now I'm back in the DA's office, and I didn't think I would have the opportunity there to really have an effect on the community, but I'm actually now working in crime prevention and reentry and different things like that, which kind of are aligned with the movement that is going on across the world right now. So I never thought in being in a place like that, I would have an opportunity to do that work, but I've been able to tie it into keeping people safe and keeping the community safe, and at the same time doing something that means a lot to me. So with all of this great advice, hopefully you'll get to it a lot sooner than I did. But I think it was Janelle that said this is a journey, and I think that is so very true. So you have to use every experience to move forward and not feel at any point that you're stopped, or even if you think, oh, I went into this field and I made a mistake, that's okay, because you don't have to stick with something. I think they say just because you spent a long time making a mistake doesn't mean that you have to stick with
Keep
it.
making it. Yeah.
So even if you get to that point, just know that you can put a stop on it and turn things around and move in a different direction. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you, Tara. I wasn't expecting you to ask me to comment, but I'm glad you did. And I want to just personally just thank our panelists. You're just wonderful. And I have been making some notes here for myself and to share with other people who may ask me questions about resumes and careers and interviews. I feel that now I have some more information, and you have also encouraged me to set up my own LinkedIn profile, because I have steered away from that, but after this conversation, I'm going to get it done.
Good.
Well, thank you. I just want to add to that. Thank you so much, Sonia, for moderating this panel. Thank you so much to the panelists for, sharing all of these great bits of knowledge and information that young people will have the opportunity to utilize for many years to come. To the participants, those that were on the call and listening in, Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We hope it was very informative for you, and you'll have access to all of the resources that were shared. As expressed earlier, this is a recorded session, so you will be able to find these within the coming week on our YouTube channel, and check out our website at todaysgirltomorrowswoman.com for information, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of the social media platforms. So once again, I'm going to end our recording, and our participants, you may hang up. And for the panelists and the moderator, please stand by for final thoughts.